Hello, welcome to Books and More, a place where we summarize the original core ideas from great books, helping you save reading time while still grasping their essential meaning. At Books and More, we share thoughtful insights on life, mindset, business, and personal growth through clear and engaging book summaries. In this video, we explore A Way of Living by Kazuo Inamori, a profound book that teaches how correct thinking, strong character, altruism, and harmony with universal principles can shape a meaningful life. This is not a guide to quick success, but a timeless philosophy for living rightly, steadily, and deeply from within. Introduction: Rethinking the way we live in the modern age. We live in an age of remarkable material abundance and technological progress, yet beneath the surface of convenience lies a deep sense of unease. People have more choices, more information, and more opportunities than ever before, but many feel lost, anxious, and dissatisfied. Wealth has increased, but inner fulfillment has not kept pace. This contradiction leads me to reflect on a fundamental question: what is the true purpose of human life? I believe the root of many modern problems does not lie in economics, politics, or technology, but in the way people think about how they live. As society has advanced, we have gradually neglected the most essential principles of being human. We pursue efficiency, status, and short-term success, while overlooking the cultivation of character and the condition of the heart. When people lose a clear philosophy of life, they become easily swayed by desire, competition, and comparison, and as a result, both individuals and societies drift toward instability. Philosophy, as I understand it, is not an abstract theory reserved for scholars. It is a simple, practical way of thinking that guides everyday decisions. It consists of basic principles we once learned as children: honesty, diligence, consideration for others, and humility, but often forget as we grow older. These principles may seem ordinary, even outdated, yet they are precisely what sustain a meaningful and balanced life. Without them, no amount of intelligence or talent can prevent a person from losing direction. From my experience, the true measure of a human life is not how much wealth or fame one accumulates, but the degree to which one has refined one's character and elevated one's soul. Material achievements disappear when life ends, but the state of the soul remains. Life, therefore, should be understood as a continuous process of self-cultivation. Each day presents an opportunity to become slightly more sincere, more compassionate, and more disciplined than the day before. Difficulties and hardships are often seen as misfortunes, yet I view them as indispensable tools for spiritual growth. When life is easy, people rarely reflect on themselves. It is through struggle, failure, and perseverance that the heart is polished and the ego softened. Rather than resisting hardship, we should accept it as a necessary part of becoming fully human. This book is written as a quiet reminder to return to these fundamental values. It does not ask readers to withdraw from society or seek enlightenment in isolation. On the contrary, it teaches that everyday work, relationships, and responsibilities are the very fields in which the soul is refined. By living earnestly, ethically, and caring for others, anyone, regardless of background, can lead a life of depth and dignity. If these reflections help you pause, reconsider your way of living, and rediscover a clear guiding principle for your life, then this book has fulfilled its purpose. An ordinary life, when lived with sincerity and awareness, can become truly extraordinary. Chapter 1: Turning Thoughts into Reality. Throughout my life, I have repeatedly asked myself what truly determines the course of a person's life. Many believe that destiny, talent, environment, or luck are the decisive factors. Yet the more deeply I have reflected on my own experiences in business and in life, the more convinced I have become of one fundamental truth. A person's life is shaped first and foremost by their thoughts. Everything we experience, success or failure, fulfillment or regret, is the accumulated result of the thoughts we have consistently held within our hearts. Thoughts are not vague or powerless. They are the starting point of all action. Before anything is spoken or done, it exists first as an idea in the mind. No building is constructed without a blueprint, and no life is formed without an inner design. For this reason, if we wish to change our circumstances, we must begin by transforming the way we think. Attempting to change the external world without correcting our inner attitude is like trying to alter the course of a river while ignoring its source. Not all thoughts carry the same weight. Fleeting emotions come and go, but deeply rooted beliefs shape our behavior and ultimately our destiny. When a person harbors fear, resentment, selfishness, or doubt at a deep level, those feelings quietly influence every decision they make. Even sincere effort cannot fully compensate for a distorted inner compass. On the other hand, when one cultivates thoughts grounded in sincerity, effort, gratitude, and moral clarity, life begins to move in a positive direction, even in the face of adversity. In my business career, I have seen many talented individuals fail, not because they lacked ability, but because their thinking was flawed. Some were driven by excessive greed, others by fear of failure, and still others by pride that prevented them from listening to advice. These inner attitudes inevitably led to poor judgment and unstable outcomes. In contrast, I have known many people of ordinary ability who achieved lasting success simply because they maintained sound, upright thinking. They worked diligently, acted honestly, and remained humble, allowing steady progress to replace sudden but fragile victories. Correct thinking, in my view, is not clever calculation for personal gain. It is thinking aligned with fundamental moral principles: honesty, fairness, responsibility, and concern for others. When one consistently asks, "Is this the right thing to do?" rather than "What can I gain from this?" actions naturally take a constructive direction. Over time, this way of thinking builds trust, which becomes the most valuable foundation for any long-term endeavor. Some people believe that decisive action alone leads to success, regardless of mindset. I strongly disagree. Action without sound thinking is dangerous. Thought is the compass. Action is the journey. If the compass is inaccurate, even the most energetic movement will lead one astray. For this reason, refining one's thinking is not a luxury, it is a necessity. We must continually examine our inner attitudes and correct them before they solidify into habits. Another essential aspect of turning thoughts into reality is the power of unwavering belief. When a person truly believes in what they are doing and commits themselves wholeheartedly, that conviction is reflected in their words, posture, and behavior. Others can sense this authenticity and are naturally drawn to support it. Conversely, when thoughts are filled with hesitation or hidden motives, actions lose their persuasive power, no matter how skillful they appear on the surface. I do not deny the influence of circumstances, talent, or opportunity. However, these factors only bear fruit when guided by proper thinking. Talent without character becomes destructive. Opportunity without wisdom is easily wasted. Correct thinking allows individuals to make use of whatever conditions they are given, turning even adversity into a source of growth. Therefore, the most important task in life is to cultivate one's inner world. This requires daily effort, observing one's thoughts, identifying selfish or fearful tendencies, and replacing them with sincerity and determination. Such discipline is not easy, for human nature is weak and easily swayed. Yet it is precisely this inner struggle that leads to true maturity. Small, consistent thoughts shape great outcomes. Working earnestly each day, treating others with respect, and refusing to compromise one's integrity may not yield immediate rewards. However, over time, these thoughts accumulate into a powerful force that steadily transforms one's life. There is no shortcut or miracle involved, only the quiet, persistent alignment of thought and action. In conclusion, turning thoughts into reality is a lifelong process of self-refinement. It demands patience, honesty, and faith in fundamental values. When a person commits to keeping their thoughts sincere, disciplined, and morally sound, life naturally begins to reflect those qualities. From such ordinary thoughts, held consistently, an extraordinary life is formed. Chapter 2. Thinking based on principles and values. As I reflect on life and the many decisions people make each day, I have come to realize that most human suffering and confusion arise from a lack of firm guiding principles. When individuals do not possess a clear standard for judging what is right and wrong, they are easily swayed by emotions, circumstances, or short-term gains. In moments of success, they become arrogant. In moments of hardship, they fall into resentment or despair. Without principles, life becomes reactive rather than deliberate, and direction is easily lost. Principles and values are not abstract theories meant only for philosophers. They are the fundamental rules that govern human conduct: honesty, diligence, fairness, humility, and compassion. These principles have been passed down through generations, not because they are convenient, but because they work. They form the invisible foundation upon which stable lives and enduring organizations are built. When people abandon these principles in pursuit of quick results, they may experience temporary gains, but they also plant the seeds of future collapse. Many people believe that success requires flexibility, bending rules when necessary, compromising values to survive competition. Yet I have learned that true strength lies not in flexibility of values, but in steadfastness. When one's thinking is grounded in unchanging principles, decisions become clearer and inner conflict diminishes. Instead of asking, what is most advantageous right now, one asks, what is fundamentally right? This shift in perspective transforms not only outcomes, but the quality of one's life. In business, I consistently emphasize to my colleagues that profitability must never come before integrity. If a decision promised financial gain, but violated ethical standards, it was not worth pursuing. Such restraint may appear naive in the short term, but over time it builds trust among employees, customers, and society at large. Trust, once established, becomes a powerful asset that no amount of money can buy. It allows an organization to weather difficulties and grow steadily without fear of sudden collapse. Thinking based on principles also brings emotional stability. When success comes, one does not become intoxicated by pride, because achievements are seen as the natural result of correct effort. When failure occurs, one does not blame fate or others, but calmly examines whether one's actions aligned with proper values. This mindset turns every experience, good or bad, into an opportunity for reflection and improvement, rather than a cause for emotional turmoil. Principles do not change with circumstances. Technology evolves, markets fluctuate, and social trends shift. But honesty remains honesty, and diligence remains diligence. Those who chase tactics without grounding them in principles are like builders who decorate a house without a solid foundation. Eventually, even the most impressive structure will crumble. Only by returning to basic values can one achieve results that endure beyond temporary trends. Living by principles requires courage. It means resisting the temptation to follow the crowd when the crowd chooses convenience over correctness. It means enduring short-term loss rather than sacrificing long-term integrity. It also means having the humility to admit mistakes and correct one's course when one realizes that a decision has strayed from fundamental values. Such courage is not loud or dramatic. It is quiet and consistent, expressed through daily choices. I have often found that when a decision causes inner unease, it is a sign that a principle has been compromised. A clear conscience is one of the most reliable indicators of correct thinking. When people repeatedly ignore this inner signal, they gradually lose the ability to distinguish right from wrong. Conversely, those who respect this inner voice develop a strong moral intuition that guides them even in complex situations. Life rarely presents choices in clear black and white. More often, decisions exist in shades of gray. In such moments, those who have trained themselves to think in terms of principles do not need to deliberate endlessly. Their values serve as a compass, pointing them in the right direction. This clarity brings decisiveness without recklessness and confidence without arrogance. Skills and knowledge are important, but they must be guided by values. Skill without principle can cause harm, while principle without skill may limit effectiveness. Ideally, the two should work together, with principles providing direction and skills providing execution. When this balance is achieved, both personal growth and social contribution are maximized. Ultimately, thinking based on principles is about building a life that one can stand behind without regret. It allows individuals to move forward calmly, regardless of external success or failure. By anchoring every thought and decision in fundamental values, one creates a life of coherence and depth. Such a life may appear ordinary on the surface, but it possesses an inner strength that makes it truly extraordinary. Chapter 3: Refining Character and Elevating the Soul. As I have reflected on my life and the many people I have encountered, I have come to believe that the true value of a human being is not determined by talent, intelligence, or external achievement, but by character and the condition of the soul. Skills can be learned and knowledge can be acquired, but without a well-refined character, even great ability can lead one astray. A meaningful life is not one without failure, but one in which a person continually strives to improve who they are at the deepest level. Character is not something we are born with in a finished form. It is shaped daily through our thoughts, words, and actions. Every small decision leaves an imprint on the soul. When we excuse minor dishonesty or laziness, we gradually weaken our inner foundation. Conversely, when we hold ourselves to a high standard, even in matters no one else sees, we quietly strengthen our character. Refining character, therefore, is not a one-time effort, but a lifelong discipline. I often compare the human soul to a rough stone. Left untouched, it remains coarse and ordinary. Only through continuous polishing does it become smooth and radiant. The tools that polish the soul are not comfort or praise, but difficulty, hardship, and adversity. People naturally wish for an easy life, yet ease rarely produces growth. It is through struggle that our true nature is revealed, and through perseverance that the soul is refined. Many people resent hardship and view it as misfortune. However, when we look more deeply, we see that every challenge carries within it an opportunity for inner growth. Failure teaches humility, suffering cultivates compassion, and sustained effort develops patience. Without such experiences, the soul remains shallow. A life free of difficulty may appear pleasant, but it often lacks depth and resilience. To elevate the soul, one must first practice honest self-reflection. It is easy to criticize others, but far more difficult to acknowledge our own shortcomings. True growth begins when we accept responsibility for ourselves, rather than blaming circumstances or people around us. Self-reflection is not self-condemnation. It is the courage to see oneself clearly and make conscious improvements. Those who mature spiritually are those who learn from their own mistakes rather than denying them. In both work and daily life, I have learned that attitude matters more than results. Results may fluctuate due to external conditions, but attitude reflects one's inner state. When a person approaches work with sincerity, diligence, and care, they not only create value for others, but also polish their own soul. Even repetitive or difficult tasks become opportunities for self-discipline and growth. On the other hand, when work is done carelessly or solely for personal gain, the soul gradually becomes dull, regardless of outward success. Humility plays a vital role in refining character. As people achieve success, they are often tempted by pride. Pride closes the heart, prevents learning, and isolates individuals from others. Humility, by contrast, keeps the mind open and receptive. It allows one to learn from everyone, regardless of status or position. True humility is not self-deprecation, but an accurate understanding of one's place in the larger world. Another essential element in elevating the soul is gratitude. Gratitude transforms how we experience life. When we are grateful, we focus less on what we lack and more on what we have received: support from others, lessons from hardship, and opportunities for growth. A grateful heart is naturally generous and resilient. It softens resentment and reduces comparison, allowing the soul to remain calm and balanced even in difficult circumstances. Our character is most clearly revealed in how we treat others. Kindness, fairness, and respect are not merely social virtues. They are tools for refining the soul. When we make an effort to understand others, to listen without judgment, and to act with consideration, we expand our inner world. Through relationships, we learn patience, empathy, and responsibility. These qualities cannot be developed in isolation. However, kindness does not mean indulgence. There are times when honesty and firmness are required. True compassion seeks the growth of others, not their temporary comfort. Upholding principles, even when it is uncomfortable, is itself an expression of refined character. It demonstrates respect for both oneself and others. The process of elevating the soul is slow and often invisible. There is no shortcut to becoming a better person. Each day offers only small opportunities for improvement, yet these small efforts accumulate over time. Like sharpening a blade, refinement requires patience and consistency. Excessive force or haste only causes damage. Ultimately, what remains at the end of life is not wealth or recognition, but the state of one's soul. External achievements fade, but character endures. A person who has refined their character and elevated their soul can face life with calmness and dignity, regardless of circumstances. When we dedicate ourselves to becoming better human beings each day, more sincere, more patient, more compassionate, an ordinary life naturally acquires extraordinary depth and meaning. Chapter 4: Living with a Spirit of Altruism. As I have observed people in society over many years, I have come to believe that one of the most misunderstood yet powerful virtues is altruism. Many assume that to survive and succeed in the world, one must prioritize self-interest, compete relentlessly, and protect personal gain above all else. However, when we look beyond short-term outcomes and consider the longer course of life, we find the opposite to be true. It is selfishness that isolates people and creates conflict, while altruism builds trust, harmony, and lasting fulfillment. Altruism does not mean sacrificing oneself blindly or accepting unfair treatment. Rather, it is the ability to consider others' perspectives, feelings, and circumstances, and to act with an awareness that one's decisions affect more than just oneself. When people live with this awareness, relationships naturally become more stable, cooperation replaces confrontation, and life gains a sense of balance. Altruism aligns individual behavior with the broader flow of society, allowing both the individual and the group to prosper together. Most conflicts arise because people view situations only from their own standpoint. We are quick to believe that we are right and that others are unreasonable. Yet if we pause and sincerely attempt to see the situation through another person's eyes, we often discover fear, pressure, or misunderstanding rather than malice. Altruism slows our reactions and replaces anger with reflection. It allows us to respond thoughtfully instead of emotionally, preventing minor disagreements from becoming lasting resentments. In the realm of work and leadership, altruism is especially crucial. A leader who thinks only of personal success or recognition may achieve short-term results, but will eventually lose the trust of others. By contrast, a leader who genuinely cares for the well-being and growth of their team creates a foundation of loyalty and motivation. When people feel respected and supported, they naturally give their best effort, not out of obligation, but out of gratitude and shared purpose. In this way, altruism becomes a powerful force that strengthens organizations from within. Altruism also plays a vital role in maintaining inner peace. When we hold on to resentment or a desire for revenge, we harm ourselves more than anyone else. Such emotions cloud judgment and weigh heavily on the heart. Forgiveness and understanding do not erase past wrongs, but they free us from being controlled by them. To forgive is not to excuse wrongdoing, but to choose not to let bitterness dictate our future. In releasing resentment, we reclaim our mental clarity and emotional freedom. Practicing altruism requires overcoming the ego. When we are criticized or treated unfairly, our instinct is to defend ourselves or strike back. Altruism asks us to pause and consider a higher perspective. This restraint is not weakness, but strength of character. It takes courage to respond with patience and generosity when one has the power to retaliate. Such strength reflects a well-developed inner life and a clear sense of values. It is important to understand that altruism is not incompatible with justice or responsibility. Showing consideration for others does not mean ignoring mistakes or avoiding accountability. Sometimes, true altruism involves pointing out errors and setting firm boundaries if the intention is to help others grow and prevent greater harm. The key lies in motivation. When actions are guided by concern for the greater good, rather than personal pride or anger, even difficult decisions can be made with compassion. In daily life, altruism often appears in small, ordinary actions: listening attentively, offering help without being asked, exercising patience in moments of inconvenience, and refraining from harsh judgment. These acts may seem insignificant, yet they carry great power. They create an atmosphere of trust and warmth that spreads quietly from one person to another. Over time, such an environment nurtures both emotional well-being and social stability. Living altruistically also broadens one's perspective on success. When we shift our focus from personal gain to contribution, our sense of purpose deepens. Life becomes less about comparison and competition and more about meaningful participation in something larger than ourselves. This shift brings a quiet satisfaction that material achievements alone cannot provide. True fulfillment arises not from accumulating, but from giving. Gratitude is closely connected to altruism. Those who are grateful naturally become generous, as they recognize that their own lives have been shaped by the support and kindness of others. Gratitude softens the heart and reduces dissatisfaction, allowing people to give without resentment. It also helps us appreciate challenges, seeing them not as punishments, but as lessons that shape character and resilience. Of course, altruism does not guarantee immediate rewards. At times, kindness may be misunderstood or taken advantage of. Yet if we close our hearts out of fear of loss, we forfeit the chance to live fully. Altruism is not a transaction, but a way of being. It is a commitment to live according to values that transcend immediate outcomes. Over time, such a way of life cultivates trust, respect, and inner peace, rewards far more enduring than temporary gains. I believe that a healthy society cannot be sustained by rules and systems alone. While laws maintain external order, altruism nurtures internal harmony. When individuals consistently consider the impact of their actions on others, conflicts diminish and cooperation flourishes. This moral awareness forms the true foundation of a stable and humane society. Ultimately, living with a spirit of altruism leads to inner freedom. When we are no longer trapped by self-centered desires, resentment, or the need to prove ourselves, the heart becomes light and clear. We act with sincerity rather than calculation, and our lives gain a quiet strength. Even in the face of difficulty, those who live altruistically retain a sense of calm, knowing they are aligned with what is right. By choosing each day to think beyond ourselves, to show understanding, and act with generosity, we gradually transform both our inner world and our external relationships.
In ordinary life, guided by altruism, becomes rich in meaning and connection. And in this quiet, consistent practice of considering others, a truly extraordinary way of living naturally emerges.
Chapter 5: Living in Harmony with the Flow of the Universe. As I look back on my life and the many experiences that have shaped it, I have come to understand that human beings do not exist independently of the world around them. We are part of a much greater order, a vast flow governed by natural and moral laws that operate quietly yet unfailingly. When people attempt to force their will upon this flow through greed, arrogance, or impatience, life becomes filled with struggle and conflict. When they learn to live in harmony with it, however, life unfolds with a sense of balance, calm, and quiet strength. The universe operates according to principles that cannot be ignored. Causes give rise to effects, and actions inevitably produce corresponding results. This is not superstition, but a fundamental truth observed throughout history. People often focus only on immediate outcomes, forgetting that every thought and action leaves an imprint on the greater flow of life. When we align ourselves with these universal principles, honesty, sincerity, effort, and compassion, our lives begin to move naturally in a constructive direction. When we act against them, obstacles arise, serving as reminders that we have lost alignment. To live in harmony with the universe first requires acceptance of reality. Acceptance does not mean resignation or passivity. It means recognizing circumstances as they are, without resentment or denial. When faced with hardship, instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" we should ask, "What is the situation trying to teach me?" This shift in attitude preserves inner calm and allows us to respond wisely rather than emotionally. Acceptance clears the mind and opens the way to appropriate action. Many people exhaust themselves trying to control everything: outcomes, other people, and even the future itself. Yet the more tightly we cling to control, the more anxiety we create. The universe does not bend to individual desires. When we release excessive attachment and place trust in a greater order, the heart becomes lighter. This lightness does not weaken effort. Rather, it enhances effectiveness because our actions are no longer clouded by fear or desperation. Living in harmony also means understanding one's role in each moment. Whether we are leaders, workers, parents, or students, we must fulfill our responsibilities sincerely and without comparison. Problems arise when people seek results beyond what they have prepared for, or demand recognition without first contributing value. When we focus on doing what is required of us here and now, the natural progression of life takes care of the rest. Much suffering arises when people act against their own nature or the natural timing of events. Impatience leads to frustration, and ambition without foundation leads to collapse. Growth, whether personal or professional, requires steady accumulation. Just as a plant cannot be forced to grow faster by pulling on its leaves, a person cannot achieve lasting success by ignoring the necessary process. Harmony is found in patient effort and respect for natural rhythm. A clear and sincere heart is essential to aligning with the flow of the universe. When the heart is clouded by resentment, envy, or excessive desire, judgment becomes distorted. A calm and pure heart, like still water, reflects reality accurately. From such clarity arises intuitive understanding, an ability to sense what is appropriate without excessive calculation. This inner clarity is not mystical. It is the natural result of living sincerely and ethically. Humility is another vital element of harmony. No matter how accomplished a person becomes, they remain a small part of a vast whole. Recognizing this keeps pride in check and preserves openness to learning. Humility does not diminish one's worth, it enhances it by allowing continual growth. Those who remain humble are more receptive to guidance and more capable of adapting gracefully to change. In my work, I have always believed that if one focuses on doing what is right, the results should be entrusted to the universe. This does not imply abandoning responsibility, but rather committing fully to effort while releasing excessive concern over outcomes. When actions are correct and motives sincere, the results, though not always immediate, will arrive at the appropriate time. Such trust brings peace and prevents burnout. Living in harmony does not mean waiting passively for fortune. It demands diligent effort, but effort free from forcefulness. Like a farmer who tends the soil daily, without demanding instant harvest, we must devote ourselves to consistent, honest work. Growth happens quietly, often unnoticed, until one day the results become visible. This patience reflects true alignment with natural law. Those who live in harmony with the flow of the universe learn to accept both success and failure with equanimity. Success does not inflate the ego, and failure does not destroy hope. Both are understood as transient stages within a longer journey. What matters most is not the outcome, but whether one has acted with sincerity, integrity, and perseverance along the way. Ultimately, living in harmony with the universe represents the highest form of human maturity. When thoughts are aligned with moral principles and actions are guided by sincerity, life naturally takes on a sense of order and meaning. Struggle gives way to steadiness, and anxiety is replaced by quiet confidence. By trusting universal principles, fulfilling one's responsibilities earnestly, and releasing unnecessary attachment, anyone can experience a life of calm purpose. An ordinary life, lived in harmony with the greater flow, becomes deeply meaningful, and in that meaning, truly extraordinary. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe so it can reach more people. Thank you so much for watching. Wishing you a wonderful and happy evening with your family. Goodbye, and see you again in our next videos.